Hello, everybody. This is a bit too harsh. So, I humbly welcome everyone to this presentation. My name is Attila Komor, and in the next few minutes, I will talk about open data. Before I start my presentation discussing open data, I would like to speak a bit about myself. I'm a data analyst working for Nextent, who organized this awesome conference for the second time. My role as a member of the BI team, my main duties are BI consulting, technical development, and of course some pre-sale activities. Let me tell you a short story of mine. Back in the day when I was learning at the university, I was learning geophysics and I was making my bachelor thesis about historical tsunamis. I was wondering if I can find any data sets about them. And I was really amazed how easily found them on the internet, huge data sets. That was the first time I realized how awesome, passionate, and valuable are open data. You can ask the question, this is a big data conference, how comes open data here? The answer is very simple. Big data, open governmental things, and open data are in connection with each other. You know, big data essentially describes large data sets. You know the 4 V's, you know what I'm talking about. On the other hand, open governmental things is a combination of ideas. For example, it includes collaborative strategies to engage citizens in government, and so on, petitions. And you may ask, so what is open data? I'm sure you have an idea what it is, but very few of us can describe it properly. On the next slide, you can see a definition. There are 2 basic features here. The data must be publicly available for anyone to use, and it must be licensed in a way to allow for its use. The goals of open data are similar to those other open movements, for example, open access, open source. The term open data is recent, gaining popularity with the World Wide Web, and especially with the launch of the open governmental data sources and portals. So why is open data valuable for us? Why is it important? Because open data means business. Open data is a huge gold mine of data which intelligently used can be transformed into great business value. Companies of all shapes and sizes have started using open data as a part of their work. So open data is an accessible public data that people, companies, organizations can use. They can make with it business-driven decisions, make new ventures, solve complex problems, analyze trends and patterns. So what is an open data company? We can define an open data company as a company who uses or otherwise produces or invests in open data itself. Or it could be a data publisher or a user who uses open data to make a new service, or a company who uses open data, who teach how to use open data to other companies. These companies come from different sizes of sectors. For example, most of them are coming from the IT sector, the technological and communication, but we can find from science, business administration, health, and so on. But they vary in size and age, but most of the startup companies use open data. So these open data startups are emerging micro enterprises to exploit explicitly the benefits of open data. Often this comes with a form of a new service or a new product. So we can say the startups are the main innovators, challengers in open data. So we can group open data into 2 big categories. First one is the open governmental data. There are some pros for governmental data. For example, it can facilitate governmental transparency, accountability, or public participation. Some make the case that opening up some official government data can support economical growth or technological innovation. I would like to mention some examples here. For example, the data.gov. The data.gov is the USA's data portal. You can find a huge ton of data sets free available. Or the European Union has one, data.europe.eu. Or England. I have to mention England is a big, the English government has a big source of open data. You really must check them. They're really interesting. On the other hand, let's speak a bit about non-governmental open data. These are mostly business, non-profit, community projects, generally developed by people seeking to make large data sets available for widespread use. More and more scientists are sharing their research data in a new collaborative model to achieve more value from it. But we can say, for example, some researchers use this open social media data to analyze the people's opinion about certain matters. Some examples here, for example, DBpedia, it collects the Wikipedia's data into a structured form, or Open Corporates, it collects some international company data, or Human Genome Project. So what kind of data can we find in open data? On this bar chart behind me, you can see some different types. Actually, this is a survey made by Open Data Institute. So you can see that geospatial and mapping data are the most, are the first one on this list. But we can see that they use transportation, environment, demographics, and so on, business data, and so on. So, a lot of companies chooses from different sectors to combine these data sets into something bigger so they can use it to achieve something greater. So we spoke about the sources now. If you would like to work with open data, you will face some challenges. What do you think? What is the #1 challenge? If you thought about accuracy of data, then you were right. So this is the biggest issue. There are two subcategories here. For example, the first one is the data itself, the detail of it, or the inconsistencies can be found in it. Or maybe you get two different data sets on the same matter, but they are inconsistently presented. The second one is the licensing of data sets. So when you use open data, you have to use an open data license. It can vary, it depends on the source, but we can say it can limit your use. How can you use this data for commercial values? The next one is actually the timeliness of data. I don't think it needs any explanation. Data must be updated regularly, and everybody wants their freshest data. So the next one is the ease of access, provenance of data, and format of data. So the provenance of data is very important to the user. So with a clear provenance, it helps the users to understand clearly the context of open data. And they can use it with confidence. Format of data. Actually, there are some minor issues here, but the main thing is the data must be accessible in a machine-readable format. But some companies don't care about it. They digitize these open data sets and they distribute it otherwise. And the ease of access. I think this also don't need any explanation. But other problems can be the help and support from publishers. I mean, if they don't help you, how they collected the data, how they modified it, it can be a really great problem. And of course, the accompanying documentation. So I think I spoke enough about open data, and let's see some of it. I hope you like my wallpaper. So, how many of you were at Power's presentation about Click? Raise your hands. Okay, and how many of you uses some kind of BI tool? Tableau? Power BI? Click? Okay, so most of you, Click will be a new stuff. In Click sense, there are applications. This is some just normal analysis. I downloaded some data from data.gov.uk. Actually, it's about an application about road safety data from 2005 to 2015. So let's look at them. So right now, we have 1.8 million data accidents from the data sets. You can see that from 2005, and we have a map here. It's only just a limited showing. That's the capabilities of the map. But if we can drill down to some dimensions, for example, in 2008, we can see that in 2008, 170,000 accidents happened, and on this slide, on this visualization, we can see that most of them happened during the weekdays at 8 o'clock and around 5 o'clock at the afternoon. I think it's pretty normal, you know, when you go to work and you go after work. You can see this on this slide. But if I go out from this selection, we can see there is a decreasing trend in the accidents. So there were a lot of, I think, yeah, it was pretty more in 2005 than in 2015. So let's look into the details. We can see some visualization about accident conditions. One of the interesting things about here is this scatter plot. You can see here the number of casualties and the number of vehicles, and you can see some points here. I mean, number of casualties is around 70, and the number of vehicles is also 70. It could be really interesting. So let me just select this one. Oh, God damn it. So we can see some information about it. The road type was a carriageway, and we can speak. It was dry conditions, the weather conditions with fog and mist. So where did it happen? And we can see this on this map. I have to zoom out. Yeah, it is during this Shipway. Do you know where it is? It's quite close to London, actually. So, and there are a lot of different dimensions we can analyze this data limit. For example, how many of this was fatal? Let's check it out. It's only 23,000 accidents. Let's see some more information about it. Vehicles and casualties. The journey purpose here. Maybe it's most of them are unknown, and most of them were caused by cars. And then other interesting question about always the sex. So women and men, who cause the more accidents? And we can see that the male outruns the women. So that could be interesting. Yeah, and we can just play around with these open data sets for just training or show the, other cool stuffs. I'm just trying to say that in open data we can find great values. For example, this data set can be useful for police, health, you know, the LPD guy, and other stuffs. So we saw that how open data connects to big data, and what kind of business value you can find in open data itself. And we found some different sources, open governmental data and non-governmental data. We we saw some challenges here, and I hope I can inspire you in some way to use open data to integrate into your business, because nowadays this is a really huge open mind. And thank you for your kind attention.